about economy and remove regulations so employers can provide more jobs, can create more jobs, can issue more paychecks, and people can get back to work, and with more paycheck they can buy things, and the more things they buy, the more people have to be hired to sell those things or build those things or make those things. And so if we continue to work toward strengthening the economy with an environment that's not regulatory abrasive or creating, remove obstacles, taxes, make it easier to grow the economy, then the spin-off is those foreclosures will eventually fix themselves. There is also an issue. The quickest way to expedite it is the process that would be referred to as non-judicial foreclosure, where you don't have to go through courts and a borrower and a banker can come to terms and walk away. But the fact is, in the state of Florida, all mortgage contracts are already written, and they provide for judicial foreclosure, and we can't legislatively break existing contract law. So even if both parties agree, they can't do it because of the contract that's in place.
So then we're back to the bottom line, and we all know what has to be done, or I think we know what has to be done, but nothing has happened. Is that what I'm gathering?
Well,
I mean, the grass is still growing.
Yeah.
The neighborhoods are deteriorating.
Well, I think maybe not enough is happening. I think I see homes. I've got homes down in Naples that I see where now all of a sudden the banks are getting involved. Perfect example. The home directly next to me has been vacant and abandoned for 4 or 5 years. The guy who lived in it died, and the grass grew, and there's mold inside, and it's just terrible. Fortunately, it's kind of around the bend, so it's not quite an eyesore when I pull into my driveway. But it has been a source of frustration. The swimming pool in the back of it's all boarded up. The roof is just loaded with mildew, and it looks terrible. Last week there was a sign put in front. My wife said she managed to sue people, and there was 2 people over there cleaning it up and starting to clean it up and clean the house out. And I said, "Did they buy it?" She said, "No, they've been hired by the bank to clean the property up to make it more sellable." So there is, I think there is activity. Is it at the pace we want it to be? Probably not. Will it ever be? Probably not, because we have a tendency, and fortunately, we have a tendency to want to see progress quickly. And you don't want to be lazy and sit back and be a procrastinator on these issues. But
well, it seems to me that if the Declaration of Independence can be produced in 17 days, we should be able to solve this problem.
Well, I wasn't there for the 17 days.
Let me ask you
premise,
this.
I agree with you, but the people that signed the Declaration of Independence, look at the history that happened to them for getting that done in 17 days.
He did it by himself. Let me ask you this question.
Sure.
We're in the midst of a frightening level of voter apathy. What would you attribute that to?
Well, first off, I don't know when it began. I can tell you my father served in the Pennsylvania legislature in 1948 in Pittsburgh. And he had a slogan on his brochure that said, "Bad public officials are elected by good citizens that don't vote."
Well, why don't they vote? That's the question.
That was in 1948. So here we are 60 years later, 63 years later. And so is it apathy, or is it just get used to it? I don't know. I think I happen to think that people are going to get more engaged right now. I think we're going to see voter engagement. I think the differences between issues, certainly at the national level, are dramatic and extreme, and they need to be addressed. I think just with on an international scale, with the socialist president just recently being elected in France, the whole political landscape for the world is changing.
Well, you saw what happened to him. His plane got hit by lightning.
Yeah, he had to go back and,
So that should be an example.
well,
Be careful what you do.
Let
what
me
you
shift
say.
to the issues of your time in the legislature, because you are now probably the senior member of the Lee County Legislative Delegation after November, with all the folks who are either termed out or with all the folks who are leaving office to run for another office. So we're probably going to have at least 3 new legislative members. What kind of advice might you give them in terms of to be effective? What is the benchmark of an effective legislator?
yeah. I think there are, let me frame my response in saying there could be 2 benchmarks. And I see this legislative responsibility of mine as being twofold at a minimum. One is the legislative process in Tallahassee. Then the other is the rest of the year when we're down here back to the constituent services and how we serve and interact and communicate back and forth with our public. And so my one advice to people entering this process is back to what I've already touched on. If you really want to be remembered and do a right job, people aren't going to remember what you did, but they are going to remember if you returned their phone call. So I would say, number one, be responsive to constituents, be responsive to the news press. When the editorial board asks you to come up and interview, you do it. That's part of the job description is getting your message out or making yourself available for constituents to approach, whether it's approach me via a newspaper or an internet or whatever. But from the legislative process, the advice that I would give is you really do have to multitask. There's a couple thousand bills, and they run from health and insurance, Medicaid, property insurance, education, judicial issues, ethics and elections issues. There's just a myriad of different issues. And so the thing that I find in common among all of them, the advice I would give is when you give your word on something, you stick to it. And if you get new information that you didn't have, then you up front go, you don't back down on your word. Do your homework. Understand the issues. If you don't know an issue, don't commit to an issue until you know it. And there are hundreds and hundreds of bills we have to vote on. Sometimes it's not till the floor. People come to me and say, they vote count. They need to know where we are. And they'll say, where are you on this bill? And I say, I'm with this bill, or I'm against this bill, or I'm still studying this bill. And you don't flip-flop back and forth, because I will tell you, a piece of legislation starts off as a scoop of ice cream. And everybody seems to like vanilla ice cream. And then we give it to your committee, and you say, wow, this is good, but I'm going to pour some chocolate sauce on it because I know now it's even better because I like ice cream with chocolate sauce better. And then you pass it to the next committee, and they put some pineapple on it, and you say, now it's even better because I like pineapple. And you say, whoa, I don't care for pineapple very much. Well, it's too late. It's already on there. And then the next committee puts something else on it. And at the end of the day, it comes to the floor of the Senate, and what started off as a scoop of vanilla ice cream, now it's got chocolate sauce, whipped cream, pineapple, and you don't like vanilla ice cream, so you throw a scoop of dirt on it. And we get there, and at the end of the day, now we've got this Sunday that to vote yes or no on. We don't vote. There's no maybe. There's no present. There's only yes or no, and there's no vote that says yes without the pineapple. And so you've got to decide: is the ice cream worth the pineapple? Do you eat? Where is it worth the dirt? Do you eat through the dirt to get to the ice cream? And sometimes it's worth it, and other times it's not. And so my advice to my colleagues is make sure you understand what's all loaded on that ice cream, and decide whether or not the ice cream's worth the bite.
Given the complexity of legislation as you have just described it, could the argument be made that we are beyond the stage that we need citizen legislators who meet for 60 days and then come back to the real world? Can the argument be made that we are now at the stage in our development as a democracy that we actually need professional politicians who are in session year-round and who are elected for the precise purpose of being politicians?
Somebody might want to make that argument, but it would never get my endorsement.
Why is that?
It was already pointed out that the Declaration of Independence took 17 days. I think that In the Florida legislature, I think we're doing fine as a state. We have one mandate and only one mandate. There are a lot of issues that come up, but there is only one single mandate, and that single mandate is to pass a balanced budget. That's the only thing that is required of the Florida legislature, except every 10th year. The second mandate is to redraw the districts after the population consensus is done. And so with that as a single mandate, I think that people tend to find issues, create issues, make issues. You know, you give somebody 30 minutes to do a job, and if you give them 3 hours to do the same job, eventually you'll find the same job being done for either 30 minutes or 30 hours. And I think the person that does it in 30 hours does a better job and they get on to the next. So I wouldn't be supportive of having it done in 3 hours.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Senator, we've come to the end of our meeting. Are there any final words that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I'd like to just again end where I began with my appreciation for the active role the news press takes in it, the active role that our constituents take in this process. I hadn't thought of the line that my father used in his brochure for quite some time until you caused it to generate in my thinking. And bad public officials are elected by good citizens that don't vote. And this democracy that we have, this republic form of democracy, is really, it relies on multiple fronts. Citizens, the elected official, their staff, the lobbyists, and it all has to come together as we pursue good legislation, good, sound legislation for the citizens in the state of Florida. And I appreciate the time the news press takes to communicate, to have these types of forums so that the citizens can understand who they're electing to represent their views, because it's critical, because we do have a republic form of government, and that means that I am representing some 470,000 people with different opinions. So I think it's important that I know what my constituents think, but I think it's even more important that my constituents know what I think. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator.